Reggie, the lesson said that we don't know a whole lot about Paul's background or his upbringing. I was wondering if there are any other details that the lesson didn't mention that you may know, or perhaps in the Acts of Paul and Thecla, if there's anything in there, what we can depend on that book.
Well, in the book, The Acts of Paul and Thecla, there is a physical description of Paul, short, stubby little guy with balding and his eyebrows going all the way across his head. But that was written in the late in the 2nd century by somebody who had no reason to know what he was talking about. And in fact, he was defrocked for making up this forgery. So for instance, what Paul actually looked like, we have no idea. And we don't know a lot of the specifics of his childhood. He says in the book of Acts that he was raised in Jerusalem at the feet of Gamaliel. But we know a little bit from outside historians about the Tarsus that he was born in and would have had at least the early part of his childhood growing up in. In fact, the Roman geographer Strabo, who wrote describing the Tarsus of what would have been Paul's childhood, describes some things about life in that city that do seem to show up in Paul. He says that it was a city that highly prized education. And Strabo says that one of the things that characterized the orators or the public speakers from Tarsus was that they could speak extemporaneously, that is, without a text, without any notes, and for a long time. And there's the story of poor Eutychus who winds up falling asleep sitting on an upper story in a room where Paul is preaching way into the night, and he falls down and he dies, and then Paul raises him from the dead. And there's another anecdote from Tarsus that talks about the acrimony that civic debates could take on, and it winds up with people making humor about people's defecating, and then it escalates with excrement being thrown up against a wall and people just really being vicious towards each other. And it just kind of reminds you that the world that Paul grew up in, and even in Jerusalem where he studies under Gamaliel, we know that the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Zealots, they're ready to go after each other in a heartbeat. And Paul was, in himself, a zealot, ready to go after Christians and put them in jail and even have them executed if that's what it takes to protect the integrity of God. It's amazing, given that sort of background, to see how much Paul tries to bring people together. He himself is perfectly capable of being pretty earthy in his own expressions. I mean, he talks about his own righteousness being as so much refuse, but he uses his powerful ability to communicate. He uses his amazing education, his educational background, all in the service of what he calls in 2 Corinthians the meekness of Christ, to try to bring people together and to articulate the loveliness and the wonder of Christ. So it's really pretty amazing to think about the kind of guy he would have been growing up where he grew up and the kind of man that Christ made him to be.